I want to talk to you guys about what the Libertarian Party, the chapter in New Hampshire, and then eventually the National Libertarian Party, LP National, said in reaction to this tweet from Nina Turner. Now, on first inspection, this tweet wouldn't really cause, most backlash from, I think, the vast majority of people, right? Even if you don't agree with it in principle, which I think in principle, eventually there should be a world where all medical care is free at the point of service, right? That is the world I would like to pursue. Now, whether in the immediate future that's possible, or we have to first step into a public option and then slowly move up and build it up and strengthen it until we can get to that world. We need to bring the price of insulin down first before we can, make it free. Whether that day is going to come in the near future, who knows? But I agree with it in principle. And she tweeted out, insulin should be free and medicine should be free. Now, even if you disagree with this isn't a very controversial, he gassed. How terrible. This isn't that crazy of a statement. This is something that you would expect to hear in the political paradigm. So you wouldn't expect it like a very extreme emotional reaction. Even if you disagreed with the principle of it, as in everything, like all these medicines should be free at the point of service, you at least can understand the intention, right? Even if there's people in my chat who don't agree with me, that one day all insulin, all medicine should be free, all medical care should be free at the point of service. Let's say you disagree with me on that. None of you are going to say you read this and you're like, this is evil. None of you are going to say that. Because you understand that the reason she's saying this, and the reason that anyone would say this, is because there's people in this country that die due to rationing insulin. I know people who have died due to rationing insulin. It's an absolute tragedy. There's people who die from rationing the medication, people who die every year, like 20 to 25,000 people die every year from not going to the hospital because they don't have insurance and they don't want to deal with the medical costs. And the amount of lives we could save, not only from making that cost free so people would just be able to go to the doctor, but in preventative care, because people would feel more comfortable, like, oh, I don't feel too good, I have the stomach ache, it's been with me for a few days, I'll ignore it, I don't want to spend any money. That once that concern's gone, you can get the jump on diseases like cancer and other medical problems a lot quicker, saving not only lives but money, since down the road the medical care would most likely be even more expensive. So if anything, the current paradigm for the healthcare system is not cost effective. And you can even see it in the American healthcare system. We spend on average much more for our medical care, not only on a private level, but just overall. If you look for the amount of money that Americans put into the healthcare, it is going towards near double what a lot of major other industrialized Western nations put into their healthcare, while getting not nearly the same amount of treatment. As in not being able to get it at the point of service, everyone being able to get that type of medical care. And that's why people die every year. So 20 to 25,000, I believe, according to a Yale study. I'd have to go back and cite the exact Yale study, but I believe the study was done by Yale scholars. Either way, you understand the sentiment, even if you don't agree with it, right? Now, the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire had a very different interpretation and a very different reaction to this. And this reaction became so notorious in such a short period of time that it got libertarian trending on Twitter, which I haven't seen libertarian trend on Twitter, I think, ever. Nina Turner picking crops should be free. Insulin should be free is equally offensive as calling for someone to be compelled to pick crops. Not only does this avoid, I'm putting the racism and just taking it and encapsulating it for a moment, right? And we're gonna take it and we're gonna put it over here, okay? We're taking the racism and we're putting it over here for a moment. None of this addresses what she meant. When Nina Turner said insulin should be free, she didn't mean that we should take all the doctors and we should take all the people who work at like the insulin farms where they farm the insulin from insulin trees. I assume that's how insulin is made, of course. And they take them and put them in factories and like force them to work for them for no pay. That's not what she was saying. This is a ridiculous interpretation of what she was saying. She was saying, as I said earlier, free at the point of service. That's what she meant. This completely dodges what she was saying. Completely dodges the intention of what the message she was trying to get across. It avoids the actual point she was making. So not only is this racist, it just completely dodges what the message she was trying to get across. It dodges her point. It dodges the entire conversation by just trying to be like, oh, so you want to enslave the doctors? No, she didn't say that. This is stupid. You fucking window licker. Now let's take the racism, okay? And we're gonna bring it back. The only reason they're saying this, the crops thing, is because she's black. Okay? I'm not gonna play around and say like, well, maybe they would have also said this to a white person. And no, I don't believe it. They said this because she's black. Like, they just so happened to say picking crops. Just so happened. They're trying to compare somebody getting free insulin, free at the point of service, even if they don't want to address that point. They're trying to compare that to chattel slavery. And now for any of you who are trying to be, and I try to be good faith with people I disagree with. For any of you who are maybe are trying to be even more good faith than I am and saying, well, maybe they would have said this towards a white person as well, and they're not just directly trying to point towards the horrific conditions black people were placed under in slavery and trying to degrade Nina Turner in reference to that. Well, here's something they also posted. People have a right to free insulin. People have a right to free cotton. Same energy. The caption they posted with it. Nina Turner is like the slave owner because she wants medical services free at the point of service. You know, if we were willing to fight a war against slavery, does this mean that we need to invade the United Kingdom? That there's like doctors chained up across it? They're singing like, I don't know, like, you know, there's how like plantation songs. Would there be like doctor songs in the UK? Like, woe is me, I gotta snip, snip, snip and do the surgery. Like, what, do they have their own version of that in the UK as they're chained to the operating table, doing surgery after surgery after surgery? I wonder when they like move the doctors from each hospital. You know how like back in the day during slavery, they would take slaves that died during the transport and a lot would, and they would just dump them off the side of the boat because they gave zero care about these human beings. They just viewed them as property. Like, we're gonna compare that. Anyway, it's just racist. It's just racist. And I don't know what else to say about it. Anyway, it's racist and it avoids the point in the first place. I would be less outraged, honestly, if they at least addressed her point directly instead of like beat around the bush and didn't talk about free at the point of service. Now, Nina Turner did react to this, saying, just to be clear, the statement that prompted this was insulin should be free. People who need insulin to live should not have to pay on average $98 a vial when it costs $10 to produce. The belief prompted this party to say, you should pick crops. So Libertarians is trending at 9 on Twitter for telling me to pick crops for free, for advocating for free insulin, and LP National hasn't said a word. So this is Nina Turner being like, wow, this local chapter of the Libertarian Party is insane. What does the national directors and the national leadership, LP National, think about what their chapter, their officially endorsed chapter, is saying about chattel slavery and Nina Turner? They had a reaction. Hi, Nina. Glad you asked. None of the things you advocate for are free, quote unquote. They require labor and materials which need to be compensated for. Otherwise, you are advocating for slavery. Hope this helps. They doubled down. It's okay that the local Libertarian Party is telling black politicians to go pick crops in reaction to them saying, hey, I think insulin should be free. And again, not only did the New Hampshire chapter of the Libertarian Party dodge the question of free at the point of service, LP National dodged the question of free at the point of service. Because you want to know how many, like, if this is the case, roads are slavery, because those are free at the point of service. Police are slavery, because police services, police officers, free at the point of service. Firefighters, that's slavery, because that's free at the point of service. There are a lot of, like, I've never heard of a slaves union. I have heard of a police union. Just saying. Just to be clear, the statement that prompted this was, oh, I already read this. I'm just reading it again. Dylan L. Then she finally ended it all with paying taxes is not comparable to chattel slavery. And the people in the replies are still going back and forth. They're still arguing this. Nina, if slavery is when someone is entitled to 100% of your work without compensation, then at what point is it not slavery? 50%? 40%? 0%? Now, if I pay the state, local, and federal government over 50% of my work product via coercion, am I not, by definition, at least a part-time slave? Slavery is not paying taxes. If that's the case, then everybody for the vast majority of human history, where we have organized, civilized society, have been part-time slaves. Everybody. And now we've degraded what the term slavery means, which is the ownership of another human being, where you could sell them to other people. The American government cannot take me and sell me to another person. That is not they can't do that. They don't have the ability to do that. We get something in quality in return for our taxes. We get to choose the jobs that we engage with in society. You don't get to do that. You don't get to go to the slave owner during slavery times and say, you know, Mr. Slave Owner, I would very much like to go to the University of Maryland and major in architecture. I've been looking at these plantation houses, and I think I can make some improvements. Also, I think I'm going to give you 20% of my labor today. The Libertarian Party is its own worst enemy. The Libertarian Party's recruitment numbers are down, down, down. The membership is dropping like flies. Their fundraising is down, 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 and it has been so ever since the Mises Caucus took over. Gary Johnson, the reign of Gary Johnson over the Libertarian Party, saw higher membership than what they have right now, going into a Trump v. Biden round 2. And their membership is going down when you would think, considering that a lot of Americans don't want Joe Biden to run again, and a lot of Americans don't want Donald Trump to run again, this would be another opportunity for the Libertarian Party to thrive. But they're headed in the other direction because they're running into PR disaster after PR disaster after the Mises Caucus took over, which has no interest in actually building a coherent party that can, get on the ballot and run candidates that can win. Doesn't have any interest in that. It's instead aligning itself with a lot of local Republican parties across the country, caucusing with those parties, putting their support behind Republican Party candidates, engaging in proxy conflicts in favor of the Republican Party. They've degraded themselves to such a degree that they've made way to just, you know what, how about we endorse the other party's candidates? It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, man. No amount of Gary Johnson saying what is Aleppo could ever embarrass the Libertarian Party as much as the Mises Caucus takeover has. I'm going to be talking to Jonathan Casey next week on, I believe, Monday. I'm going to be talking to Jonathan Casey next week on Monday at, I think, 7 p.m. about the Libertarian Party. He is the leader of the Classical Liberal Caucus. It is a caucus within the Libertarian Party that wants to kind of do away with the Mises Caucus's way of doing things, kind of go towards a more liberal, a more, I guess you could say classical liberal, of the real sense classical liberal, way of favoring the Libertarian Party. I disagree with a lot of the things they believe, but when they talk about Ukraine, you know what they don't post? They don't say, let Ukraine burn. They make posts saying, Ukraine has every right to defend itself against Russian imperialism. Even if I disagree on how we should respond to the Russian invasion. At the very least, they have some principle when it comes to the Russians invading Ukraine. And I want to talk to them about if the Libertarian Party could ever be salvaged at all. Because honestly, the more I see stuff like this, and when you look at the membership numbers, you look at the fundraising numbers, you look at the statements LP National and their local chapters are putting out, you look at the direction they're headed, and you don't see anybody, taking over the Libertarian Party to fix course. I think it's on a one-way collision course to hitting an iceberg, sinking, and then in a final moment just saying vote for the Republicans, because that seems to be all the Mises Caucus has done with its new power and influence in the party. It just caucus with the Republicans.